Hi, this is Christopher Clark, Town Administrator for the Town of Harwich. I appreciate your time and attention, and today's topic I thought we would cover is the process of elections. With me today is Anita, the Town Clerk, and I just thought that maybe, Anita, it would be interesting for people to know. I don't want to get into politics, but why don't you talk a little bit about what is the life cycle or the day in the life, if you would, of a ballot? So what are some of the typical ways that people can vote, and then what happens to that ballot in the different circumstances?
Well, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to maybe educate the voters on how the process really works. When someone comes in and applies for an absentee ballot, we take the application over the counter. If someone's ready to vote right then and there, they fill it out, they complete the ballot, we process it through the computer, and then we take it and we put it in the vault. So and when we have been asked to mail the absentee ballot to someone in town or either out of town, when we receive those ballots, we stamp them in, mark them in, put them through a process. We tell the Secretary of State that we've received the ballots. We put them then also in the vault. All the absentee ballots, the day of the election, go over to the election, and they're all hand-fed into the machine. So every absentee ballot that I receive are counted.
And all those ballots are kept in like a sealed, you said the vault, so
Correct.
They're kept in a sealed location until such time as election day.
Correct.
And then they're run through the machine as if someone were to traditionally vote.
As if they were right there and voting.
Okay.
Also, we have, starting on Monday, which is brand new to the state of Massachusetts, we have early voting. Early voting starting on Monday the 24th and going to Friday, November 4th. Normal business hours right here in the town hall. The town hall is going to be open Saturday the 29th from 10 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. Those ballots are considered what they call early voting ballots. The ballot process will be the same thing. People come to the counter and they're going to request an early voting ballot. We're going to give them the ballot and an envelope to which they have to complete. Once they've voted, they leave the ballot right with my office. The ballots are then taken, done the same process, brought in and put through the computer to let to update our voting books to know who's come in and voted, either absentee or early voting. We take those ballots and we securely put them in the vault. And on November 8th, all the early voting ballots will also be brought over to the gym where in the community center where everyone votes, and they will all be processed the same way as if they were right there and voting that day.
So just to ensure that the number of people who voted and that we have like a check and balance, so if there's 5,000 people that voted, how do we know that 5,000 ballots were given out, and how does that get cross-referenced? You mentioned something about a list. Is that a list that's generated by the Secretary of State?
Correct. I have what they call voting list, that every name of every registered voter. We have a check-in process and a check-out process. So when voters come in, they check in, then they're handed a ballot at the polls on November 8th.
Yes.
They're going to be handed a ballot. They check in, they're going to be handed a ballot, they vote the ballot, they check out, put the ballot through the machine. So in a process, the voting books both agree that everybody who took out a ballot checked out, and they put the ballot through the machine. And the machine totals always equal the numbers that are in the checkout book and the checkout books.
Okay, so if you have 5,000 people that took out ballots at the end of the night, you make sure that there's 5,000 ballots that have been tabulated.
That's correct.
And that's all done by electronic now, or an electronic reader?
The ballots that are scanned through the computer, they're all done, or there's a computer in the ballot box, on top of the ballot box.
Sure.
And they're all scanned through, an optical scan, scanned through the computer. And if you had 5,000 ballots in the machine, each one of the books were going to read 5,000.
Okay. Now, I've noticed during the last several days your staff has really increased. And can you talk a little bit about what role do the election workers, and you have registrar voters. Can you talk a little bit about why your staff has increased, and And are the register of voters, is that where some are Republican and some are Democrat? Or
That's
can you
correct.
talk a little bit about that process?
Registrars of voters are made up, according to law, by the designation of what the town clerk. So you have a balance of Democrats and Republicans, and the increase in my office of office staff over the next 3 weeks is because we have, number one, the absentee ballot process, because of the fact that people want to make sure that they're going to be able to vote for the November election. And if they're going to be out of town, they want to make sure that they can come in and vote before they go away, or they can have the ballot sent to them. Then, like I had said a few minutes ago, the early voting process is going to start on Monday.
Right.
So I'm going to have a lot more staffing then, because I'm going to make sure that we can have enough staff to check people in, make sure that they're registered voters, be sure that they are able to have a ballot, and then we're going to be able to process it through the office.
So I think that sounds good, where you not only have your staff that oversees the election, but then you have representatives from basically both parties that also monitor.
That's correct.
Now, I know I've been doing this for coming up on 27 years, and I know in my experience, when we saw those electronic machines come in, that the level of accuracy has been very good. I mean, I cannot remember a time in which the machine count was wrong from the number of ballots. Have you had that same experience where the machines have proven to be very reliable in terms of the tabulations?
Yes, they're very reliable. I can never remember a time when I don't have usually the same number of ballots that go through the machine have also checked off in the books. So they're usually, and if something's off, it's usually because of a hand count.
Sure.
Yeah, at a hand count. And at the end of the night, what I usually do is I hand count every ballot, and I make sure that the ballots that came out of the machine equal the number that's on the machine as well. So there's 4 ways that I make sure that everything is counted by the end of the night.
Now, I know in my experience over the 27 years, I think I've had 2 or 3 locations where they had a recount, which I know that's a dirty word, but just in terms of how long do those ballots have to be kept in case someone does want to recount to make sure that the information's been verified?
That's a good question. State and federal ballots I'm required to keep for 2 years, 22 months.
22 months.
22 months.
Excellent. Well, I think, I always do these segments to try to make sure that we give an opportunity to educate people to what the professional elements of what town government really does. So I appreciate you on very short notice kind of coming in and chatting about it. But I think it's important to let people know that we have a good system, and it's a very credible system and a reliable system, and their vote's going to count.
And can I just make one
Sure.
more notice, please, that if anyone is curious as to what precinct they're going to be in, if you go to the town clerk's website, there is a list of streets by precinct. It's all alphabetical. Please make sure that you can check out my website. And for the election day, I will have volunteers there on November 8th to make sure that everyone is aware of what precinct they're going to be in. But sometimes it might be a little helpful if people are a little prepared before they get there to help
Yes.
everybody, including themselves, out a little bit.
Yes. Well, this is Christopher Clark. Hopefully people have found this helpful, and as always, thank you for your time and attention.